saying men should be dangerous. By dangerous, that implies I should be ready to threaten someone, to hurt somebody.
No, you should be capable of it. There's nothing to you otherwise.
Welcome to the Dangerous Man Podcast, where we talk about how to become a better man, take responsibility for our mission, create value for others, and the many failures and lessons we've learned along the way. Stay dangerous.
Welcome back to The Dangerous Man. I am your host, Adam Tuft, joined by co-host
John Castoris.
And we have on today special guest,
Pete Jangdahl.
What's up, boys?
Welcome back, Pete.
Dude, It's good to be here.
I'm really excited for this, having you back on the podcast, Peter. It's always a good time when you're on.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
What number is for you think? How many times have we had him as a guest, do you think, Adam?
I think this is my third.
Yeah, it's at least 3, if not 4.
Yeah.
I didn't actually look before we started.
4
so.
Pete. 3 Pete, 4 Pete.
That's pretty good.
That's a good one.
I'm ready.
That's a good one.
Dad.
Yeah.
It's funny because there's this furnace. Adam and I are in our words and things and stuff. Right now we're in our men's dangerous men's club room / podcast studio / basement.
Yes.
And there's this. I live in a duplex, and the neighboring duplex has we have our 2 heater units for each half of the house.
Uh-huh.
Anyways, it's kicks on to heat the house. We're about to start recording, and we're like, "Good gosh! What the fuck?" Anyways, it was just, it's a good thing I have really good software tools in post-production to remove most of that. You probably won't hear any of that. And so we were just kind of talking about that, but
that's great.
It's just shut off, so that's good.
Yeah, to make the sound quality great. Helps to have an audio engineer. That helps out. Freaking we'll just get right into it, honestly. Today we're talking about status. All right. And I think a lot of people think about status, in the terms of social media, it's how many followers you have, how many subscribers you have if you're on YouTube, how many people got their eyeballs on you. But it's also having the nice stuff. You got the Ferrari, you got the Rolex, you got the hot girlfriend / wife, you got the big house, all this stuff that kind of goes into status. But and that's what people want, right? But what if there's some stuff that's certain things that are your status that you don't like, Because some people will go into okay, we have all these nice cars and stuff, but some people have an absolute shit box of a car. Just using cars as a good example, but but someone could become known as the guy who has the shittiest shit box of a car where it has 4 different colored panels and 8 dents and basically has a freaking donut on one of the tires, and
just a beat up car.
And he could be kind of known for having that, but he might not actually having that car. I don't understand why anybody would even would like having that car, but I don't know. I want to get into that more. John, you have some stuff where you're just okay, this is how status works. Because we were kind of in our preamble here, we were talking about what it looks like to really tie your status to your identity, and why it's important to kind of know how that works.
Yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, the idea is that everybody does everything from a standpoint of, will I get more status from doing this? Will I get less status? Will I increase or decrease my status? Yeah. And obviously that could be kind of vague thing to say, but he gives the example of, he asks these questions of, anything kind of appearance of wealth, power,
So
or
this
happiness.
is Russell Brunson,
Oh yeah. I'd probably say that.
the
Yeah.
RB
So
himself.
this
Oh,
man,
no.
awesome dude named Russell Brunson, huge mentor of mine, does a lot of online kind of business, funnel building. He kind of revolutionized the whole industry of websites, funnels, sales funnels.
Yeah.
And he writes a lot about business. He writes a lot about basically helping people, helping them through your business. But one thing he writes about in one of his books called Expert Secrets is teaching about status and how it makes an impact on everything that we do. So I mean, everybody's motives, their motivations comes out of either a desire to increase status or to avoid kind of feeling stupid or losing status in other people's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And so we want to basically, if we have this analogy of like a bag, right? And it's our status bag in our life. We want to put into the bag as much as we can with every choice we make, intelligence, wealth, style, happiness, power, physical appearance. And what we want to do is avoid anything. Our brains are literally wired to do this, to kind of avoid and take us away from anything that might that basically the bottom of the bag gets broken and all that stuff dumps out. And people would, you'd feel stupid in front of other people basically. And so that, different appearances of intelligence, anything that kind of makes us look smarter or appear more powerful or, liked by others kind of. And so one kind of story that he gives is the story of his wife, Colette, Russell's wife, Colette. And she's like, I'm not affected by it. I don't make all my decisions in life based on status. Like she was kind of having a hard time understand that and scratch her head. He's like, well, and then later she came back and was like, actually, no, that's not true, because she's like, somebody asked me the other day, like, would you ever drive a Ferrari? And she was like, no. And they were kind of like, well, why? It's like, it'd be pretty awesome if you had the money for a Ferrari, which they do. And she's like, well, if she drove a Ferrari, she basically wouldn't fit in with her other mom friends. So the way she puts it is like, I'm afraid to show up in a Ferrari based off of maybe how my friends or my neighbors would judge me, my family. And it's like, she'd rather actually pick choose to drive a minivan. And she said, because I want to be looked at by other moms as like a good mother, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And so then she realized, oh, that's a status driven choice.
Yeah.
I want to keep my status in the eyes of these other moms. And it was like, oh, so that's kind of where there's this idea that really, if you look at any area of your life, people, even if it's like something reasonable or modest, we have like a status reason for that.
Okay. So is it kind of like, because she wants like a minivan instead of like a Ferrari to impress her mom friends or whatnot, is that kind of like, is that status very much more based on like kind of what groups you see yourself like belonging to in that case? Like that's kind of what it seems like to me, right?
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. When you want to fit in with the group of people that you feel you belong to, you're going to do the things that group does.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I belong to this truck community. What do we do? What's our common thing? We all drive a truck.
Right.
Everyone, and you'll crap on each other about if it's a Ford, a Chevy, or a Dodge. But if you pull up in a Honda Ridgeline, you don't belong.
Right.
Yeah.
Everyone goes, get. If you pull up in a Toyota Tundra, though, there's some mad respect for that. Because that's a beefcake of a truck, and most truck guys will accept you. But no, I would have to agree with what you're saying there, Adam. It's a belonging.
It really is. I work part-time as a supervisor with a valet company. And one thing that I've noticed is we get these different groups staying at the hotel over a few days or weekend. Mm-hmm. And I'd always make the comment to the other valets, I'm like, I can't tell if I've talked to this person who's drove up in a new car or wrote them a ticket already because they look just like the last person. Yeah. And it's always the same. All of the mid-60s people going to the rock concert look exactly the same, drive similar cars, talk the same hairdos. And it was like all the volleyball people, they all look the same. They all act the same.
All the hockey people look the exact same. They all have like
the lettuce.
The landscaping. Yeah. This landscaping.
Exactly.
Landscaping convention. They all drove trucks. They all wore jeans and cowboy boots. And it made me realize if any of them like chose to do something different than that, they kind of wouldn't fit into that group,
Mm-hmm.
and their status would decrease.
Uh-huh.
Super interesting. But I think it all comes back to this Tony Robbins, kind of getting a little more of this concept of status, right? Take this to the next step. Tony Robbins is a really big success coach and kind of motivational. He works with some of the top entrepreneurs. He's worked with presidents. He's worked with like Oprah, I think. He's worked with all kinds of different people.
Yeah.
And helping them kind of coach them to their goals and just helping them kind of get to the next level in their life or get through roadblocks. And he's if you look at Tony Robbins up, he's created so many things that you maybe have heard of that were his initial frameworks, or he kind of revolutionized that industry. But just a really awesome, dynamic speaker, encouraging guy. And he builds this kind of teaching called the 6 human needs. And I don't want to get super into it right now, but he basically essentially says these are 6 things that you need as a human to be getting. Otherwise, you're going to look to, you're basically going to be unhappy. You're if you don't have like a roof over your head, if you don't have like food, if you don't have income, like you're gonna, if you don't have your basic needs met, you can't even function. And he takes this to the next level, like, okay, beyond like getting your food and water, like what are like the types of needs of the personality that I need to actually get satisfied? And so of those, I wanted to focus on one of them, which is every human has an intrinsic need and desire to feel significant.
Yeah.
And so he calls this one significance. And I think that is basically ties super powerfully to the status.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where it's like, I have a couple stories I want to share that kind of get into this, but yeah, so this idea of significance, let's kind of get into that a little bit. I remember when I was in middle school, I had a brother-in-law. He wasn't my brother-in-law at the time, but he was dating my eldest sister. And he
soon to be brother-in-law.
And imagine this. John is like in 6th grade. I don't know how old I was in 6th grade, but maybe 12 years old or 13 years old or something like that. Yeah. And I looked up to this guy a lot, and he had like really cool hair, like longer hair, and was just like a drummer. And I was a drummer, really into music, and he like listened to metal music, and I like at the time was super into metal. And so we really clicked and bonded. And one thing that he kind of had was he drank a lot of Mountain Dew through high school. And he kind of got this reputation and his nickname as the Dew Man. And he kind of had this persona to him of being known for Mountain Dew. And at the time, 6th grade me was like, that is the coolest thing ever. And I started drinking Mountain Dew, and I was like, I want to.
This gives me so much energy.
I was like, I didn't know this soda existed. This tastes better than any other. Why did I even drink Dr. Pepsi ever? Like, Dr. What I even
Dr.
say?
Dr. Pepsi.
That's wild,
bro. I haven't had soda in so long, bro.
Yeah.
Bro says Dr. Pepsi.
Literally forgetting the names.
And everybody turns the episode off right there. Like, what is this?
What the hell is Dr. Pepsi?
And it's
not even the
funniest
same company.
It's the funniest shit ever, because I was like, oh, this Mountain Dew is amazing. And we would go to restaurants and we'd get Mountain Dew, and we would be like, playing video games and hanging out and have Mountain Dew. And I got to this point, and Adam was like actually a big part of my life during this phase where we would walk to the grocery store together in the summer, in our summer vacations. Mm-hmm. And we'd go buy like a 12-pack or 24-pack or
I think it was either a 12-pack or like 2 12-packs.
Right.
Of Mountain Dew.
Or whatever the maximum we could get for the least amount of, dollars. It was like, let's get 24 cans. And we'd do that in a day, bro. We'd come back, and I actually picked a little mini fridge up, and I built this little man cave to play video games in. And I had this Dew fridge, and I stocked it full with Mountain Dew. And I got to this point in my life where I would either be playing with Adam or I'd be by myself, and I'd play my PlayStation 2. And be playing Madden football, Madden 09, and I later got Madden 12. I just played like football video games.
I feel like we were like a little behind on we like played the slightly older video games.
Yeah, Xbox 360 was new at the time, and we were still playing an older console.
Like PlayStation 2 or N64 with like the original Super Smash Bros. Or GoldenEye.
Oh yeah, we had some banger games. They're still fun, but
they're still fun, yeah.
But we'd get together and drink Mountain Dew and play. But I would often after school go and play Madden football on my PS2, and I would drink Mountain Dew. And I got to a point in my life where I was probably 6th, 7th, 8th grade, freshman year, high school, somewhere in there. And I would drink 6 cans of Mountain Dew per day.
Wow.
And everywhere I went, I would try to have like a Mountain Dew in my hand. And my friends would be like, oh, Mountain Dew, like that's John's thing. Yeah, John. And I'd be like, oh, do you always drink Mountain Dew, John? I'd be like, oh yeah, I drink this all the time. And I was like, I thought it was the coolest shit ever, you know? And everyone was like, oh, sweet, dude.
Again,
like,
this is like 6th, 7th grade.
yeah, we're at like a graduation party and someone opens the cooler like, oh, Mountain Dew, it's for you, John. And I was like, yep, everybody knew that I was the Mountain Dew guy.
It was also when Mountain Dew, a 12-pack of Mountain Dew was like $1.99.
Oh my god.
Not $7.99 like it is now.
Yeah.
That's
It was like $4 at like the expensive grocery store.
Yeah. And it's crazy though, because I just remember how like juiced I felt, like how felt so good being like this sense of significance of like I was the Mountain Dew guy. And I had this like, if I really talk about it, like I had status and I had like recognition of other people. Yeah. And like they would recognize me as being the guy for that thing. And so it really became a part of my identity, who I was. And I got to this point where I'd had these terrible migraine headaches. And unless I like was drinking this sugar and caffeine drink, I like get these terrible headaches. And I just remember like my digestion was bad and food I was eating, like I was getting all these chronic issues, like my joints and like, chronic headaches and wasn't sleeping well. And just like all of these issues in my gut, my digestion, everything, like chronic issues were starting to happen in my health. And I realized, oh my gosh, like this is because of Mountain Dew. But I wasn't willing to give up drinking Mountain Dew because it's who John was. I was the Mountain Dew guy. And when I was with my friends, that was my source of like significance and status. And that's like what made me different than everybody. Like I had uniqueness and like people like recognized me and yelled across the room because I was the Mountain Dew guy. And I was like, oh, well, I was just in this tension, this predicament of like, what the heck do I do? Like, this isn't good for me. Mm-hmm. And I just remember how hard that was because a part of myself was just like totally in disunity with each other. You know what I mean? And ultimately I finally made the decision to, with my mom's help, give up Mountain Dew because the headaches just were too much. It just hurt so bad. And my health was so deteriorated that I couldn't focus in school. I really struggled to have any energy at all. And my life was fading into like the hour or two that I drank Mountain Dew of feeling good. And like being on this buzz of like, this is great. I have energy. I'm playing video games. This is fun. Outside of that couple hours, my health was terrible. My focus was terrible. And my quality of life sucked. And so eventually it was just too much for me. And I threw in the towel and I switched to drinking Arnie Palmer, half and half lemonade iced tea, kind of similar, but it was different. And I was kind of weaning myself off Mountain Dew. And I ended up cutting sugar completely out of my life, actually, this was my sophomore year of high school. And I ate only organic food. My mom was really into healthy eating and she just helped me like completely change everything. And I was willing to because all these chronic issues, it was super hard. My sister had the chronic issues, health too. So like I kind of did it with her, but my life kind of drastically changed. And I just remember I had to give up John, the Dew man, the Mountain Dew guy. And it's this interesting thought because at the core of me, what mattered more than my health really for a long time was this source of significance that I got, And I actually had something recent with this where another example is like, I kind of switched and became the Chipotle guy. And I love Chipotle and I would go all the time. And it's a very similar thing. And my friends, anytime we went out to eat, it was like,
so you switched from like Mountain Dew, which is like pretty unhealthy, to something that's like slightly more healthy, which is like Chipotle.
Yeah.
So it's like you kind of like kind of evolved in that way. And I like, now that you're bringing up the story, I just like remembering at the time, because I've known John forever, that like we when you're in your like dude phase, whatever you want to call it, I don't know. we like even talked about like, well, what if we started like a little business, like shot, even though we're like in like 7th grade or something like that. I don't even know. But like, or like, what if we made like a shop and just like, it was just like, didn't have to be very big, but we like sold different kinds of Mountain Dew, but we also like did other crazy stuff with Mountain Dew, and we called it like Dew Shack or something like that. Like, I remember having like this full conversation with you about like,
we had branding, we had logos.
Yeah. You were like,
we had t-shirts made.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we had we didn't have t-shirts made, but we did have
designs.
We had designs of t-shirts made. Like it was like you were really in the Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
It was like because like I think for people to actually really understand this, it's like it went real deep. Anyway,
I'm glad you mentioned this.
So I knew John at that age and in that era, but not well. I'm a handful of years older.
Yeah.
And at that point in our lives, there wasn't a whole lot of like crossing. You were friends with Dan, and that's kind of
right. Pete's brother.
What it was, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was, older brother to one of John's other friends. And so, but I had been into his man cave, which funny enough is now my bedroom.
Because
I bought John's parents' old house.
That's so funny.
Which is hilarious.
Wild.
That's my bedroom. But he had
It looks way different.
a lot different. Let me tell you, a lot different. But no,
remodeled.
we would go down there, and it was literally like the mini fridge with, if I remember correctly, Mountain Dew stickers all over it.
Mm-hmm.
It was full of Mountain Dew, and then there was like the couch with the TV set up, like the gaming place, and that was about it. There wasn't like a whole lot going on, because it was focused on Mountain Dew and gaming.
And we were also in like 6th grade and didn't have any money. So
Right. It was like, oh, yep, this looks like where the 6th graders hang out, bro.
Yep.
That was wild.
It's funny that I was writing about this the other day, and I kind of just realized, wow, I haven't thought about this part of me in so long, because I just don't associate at all with that kind of identity anymore.
Yeah.
For way better. That's way better for my health. But it's this interesting thought that I want to bring up of like, how many times as men do we we desperately are made for and need significance. We need to feel significant. We need to be doing things that bring significance to us, amongst other things, sure. Yeah. Contributing, helping others. Yeah. I'm kind of just focusing on one aspect here of like what we need as men is to feel significant, to feel respected by others. And this whole like status thing, right? But for me, I don't think Mountain Dew was a healthy way. Tony Robbins talks about this. There are healthy ways to get your needs met, and there are unhealthy ways. You're going to get your needs met. You're going to find something and you're going to latch onto it. Yeah. And for me, that was Mountain Dew. And that's all I knew at the time. I was a middle schooler. I mean,
so the Mountain Dew was kind of meeting your need for significance.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Maybe not as well as other things. And I think that's kind of the point was, but I think it's interesting because it's like, oh, my needs are being met by things in my life. Maybe it's addiction. Maybe it's some sort of, pornography or sexual kind of, practices in your life. Maybe, it's something like binge eating or different kind of dietary things or Mountain Dew things or whatever, ice cream, whatever. Like, I think there's a lot of unhealthy. Adam, for you, is like a lot of video games.
Yeah.
Peter, for you, it's a lot of food.
Yep.
And for me, it's been a lot of different things, that we will look to fill our needs with things that are unhealthy. And I think that was a big eye-opening thing was like, I don't want to get too into this, but there are like definitely consequences to what we choose to do, the choices we make in our lives.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And I think for me, that was such like a short-term gratification with I could just chug a Mountain Dew and play video games. And I was like, I'm feeling significant. I'm getting this feeling of significance because like my friends, they're like, they recognize me. They give me individual attention. Like I have a reputation. And
that's how you actually thought like, oh, I have a reputation. And I think when you're in 6th grade,
I wouldn't think about these things at the time.
It's just like you understand what it feels like and it feels good.
Oh yeah, right.
It's not like, oh yeah, I'm building a reputation with my friends and I'm in 6th grade. Like you didn't really think about it in those terms then, but like Like,
right. But that's how significance kind of manifests.
Yeah.
You know, where
it's like you were feeling all these things, you just didn't necessarily put like the words to them.
no.
I still remember when it was like cell phones, when that started to become a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of, my friends started to get cell phones, or some of them did. And it was like their status was so high that people would create, like, you would get like a weird, like an odd shaped box of gum and like pretend it was a cell phone. Like you'd pretend to text on it, but like in a way that like made it look like you were being nonchalant, and then you'd stick it back in your pocket just to pretend to feel like you had the status of someone who had the phone.
Wow.
Yeah. This was like in junior high or something like that.
Right. That was like
like
the early, or like 2008, 2009.
Yeah. So it's like only a couple of years after like the iPhone came out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or I mean, it was back when it was BlackBerry. Or people, my friends had the Nokia. Like that was like pretty common. Or like flip phones, slides.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Anyway, if you had the slide and you didn't have the flip, like, oh, your status was above because there was so many things to that involved in it, and it's just a stupid phone. Yeah. Like I look back on it now and it's like, oh yeah, I did the pack of gum thing. I thought I was slick. That was the dumbest shit I've done.
I'm going to pretend to text on a phone.
I'm going to pretend to text. It's like,
and I think I'm being cool.
No, I look back on it. I almost didn't want to say it, but I'm I'm not afraid of looking like a fucking idiot, because that's what it was.
Yeah.
I wanted to fit in so badly that I was willing to do something like that just to try and fit in. And wow. Stupid. Like what the
Yeah.
We call it nowadays, we call it fitting in, or like fitting in with the Joneses or whatever, like that phrase of like you try and blend in with keeping up with the Joneses. Yeah, trying to fit in with all of the people around you. And so you see so many people trying to buy the nicer car, buy the house, and they're like, you might have a job making $250,000 a year, or you have a $600,000 house, two separate like $75,000 to $80,000 vehicles. You've got payments on everything, and you're living paycheck to paycheck. Like, why I don't get it.
Yeah.
Now I drive a 2007 Chevy Cobalt that I bought in cash because I don't want to have to deal with a lot of the typical problems of other vehicles. I did buy the 2008 like Chevy Suburban with the pimped out, all the shit, and then it blew the engine. So it's like, wow, a whole lot of status there, you dumbass. Like, you bought something and it doesn't work right.
They both sounded good though. Cobalt sounds good.
The Cobalt doesn't sound as good as the Suburban, because the Suburban's a V8. This is a 4, and that's just obviously not as cool. But like my Suburban, when it comes to cars, I'll just kind of touch on this. When it comes to cars, a lot of girls or women think that dudes are revving the engine or revving the motorcycle or revving their truck or doing burnouts and shit to get their attention. There are some guys who do that. And those guys are the ones that we don't like to associate with, because we actually do it for other dudes' attention. That's the status amongst men.
Oh yeah.
I have never once revved the engine because I wanted a girl to look at me. I didn't give a fuck. I was like, oh, I see a group of dudes over there. I'm going to rev the piss out of this thing. Yeah. Because to me, when their heads all turn and go, what the fuck is that? And they look, I'm like, hell yeah, that's right. I got status now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fact that there were like 4 cute girls nearby, I didn't even see them. I saw the group of dudes and went, I got to get status amongst those guys.
Yeah.
Didn't give a shit about the girls.
A lot of girls don't even really care about that kind of a thing.
I think if you have like status among the guys, that helps you get like status with the girls in a way.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Nah, you're not wrong there.
But it's like, so you might like indirectly get status from the girls. But that's because all the other guys are like, yeah, this man's the shit.
Yeah. Because you when you raise your status amongst the group, you do look like, oh, he's the leader of the group, or he's the cool guy in the group. Everyone wants to be like him. No, you know what? You're right.
Yeah.
There's that.
But it's not directly like I'm gonna rev the engine so all the ladies think I'm cool.
No.
It's I'm gonna rev the engine so all the guys think I'm cool, and then
Inadvertently,
all of the women are like, all these guys think this guy is cool, so there must be something going on, like
until they
Right.
get to know me. No wait, old me.
Yeah. But also like kind of with status and like finding status and things that aren't like necessarily like good for us, like we're not like fulfilling like our significance in a good way. It's not necessarily like black and white as in like this is good, this is bad. It's more of like you could probably put it as more of like a gradient. Like like you were finding your need met, John, by being like the Mountain Dew guy, but then it kind of like changed into like Chipotle, which isn't necessarily like a bad, like it's not necessarily like the most healthy like way to get that fulfilled, but it's like better than Mountain Dew.
Yeah. Let me kind of take this to the next layer too.
Yeah.
I think there are some things that's like, one question I would ask is like to think about is, what are some things in your life that are unhealthy?
Yeah.
That you tie your identity to and that you need recognition for. And that's like a part of who you are. And for me, I had to leave Mountain Dew behind. And there was a lot of fear of like, who am I going to be? Am I still going to be popular?
Mm-hmm.
Am I going to have significance? Am I going to feel significant? Am I going to be significant to others? Do they even care about me anymore? And I think it's an interesting thought because there are just some things that legitimately will hold you back. My health, that was deteriorating, and I was getting held back from being the kind of man and person I was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I made the choice for myself to let go of that, to heal and become, have better health. But the next level of that is, it's not that I switched to Chipotle from Mountain Dew, but I think I found things that I like and I want to be able to kind of have some significance in. Like I enjoy them. I want others to enjoy them like Chipotle. And I kind of like being known for it. And I like having some aspect to me that people go, oh, I could tell you kind of who John is and some things he likes. And it feels good to be known. It feels good to be significant.
Yeah.
In fact, it's a need every human has. And to be loved well by somebody is really to be known really well. And for them to express them knowing you, it feels good. And it's really how we're designed as humans to connect and have kind of community with each other. And I will say for the next step of that is that in my life right now, I've made a step in career and I've made a step in my own personal health. And long story short, I'm working with the world's leading health optimization doctor, Dr. Sean O'Mara. You can look him up on social media. And I've been working with him and myself. I have all these kind of, because of Mountain Dew, I think, and a lot of other things I've done in my life, I actually have a disease in my colon that, and I've had all these digestion problems for years, a lot of sensitivities to food. And in December, about, 4 months ago or so, I remember skipping a week of work because I had to lay down because anytime I ate, my stomach was in a sharp shooting pain. And this is kind of recent, and I've made a lot of health changes over the years. Anyways, my point with that is I actually have started to take this doctor's practices, and I switched to a carnivore diet. And I made all these
that meat.
Oh yeah. So I'm eating steak every day. And I made all these changes in my life. And what I realized was I've never felt better in my life. I've never had more mental clarity. I've never eaten food and had like no digestive issues. I've never like been able to sleep so easily. I've never woken up feeling so energized. Like I've crashed like once midday. And usually I would take naps every day. And every time I ate, I'd feel tired. So like my life has been changing. And my motivation has been, I want to become a better man. I want to actually have more output. I want to have more mental clarity. I want to be able to like do more things in a day. Like I have so many dreams in my life and I want to be able to go and do them. And there's a saying that the healthy man has many dreams and the unhealthy man has just one.
To be healthy.
Wow.
And I know we mentioned that on a podcast earlier, but for me, there's actually this extra piece you mentioned, Adam, Chipotle. And this is kind of the backstory of this whole episode was I realized that I'm forever going to live a lifestyle what this doctor has been doing and how it's kind of been changing my life and healing me. And I'm not going to go back to eating carbs. And so I'm never going to have Chipotle again in my life. And that was kind of a crazy realization I had of, wow, like this was like my go-to anytime I went out to eat. This was like my Wi-Fi password is Chipotle. Like there's these aspects that I've integrated into who I am around, like I've built my own personal brand. Like I would post in my social media header used to be like I love tacos and I love Chipotle. Like that's not a part of who John is anymore, but it's been for so many years. And what I realized is there's this predicament of like, if I didn't have this really strong motivation to change and leave these things behind, like, it's just interesting that like, I don't think I'd ever want to change my identity of who I am and what I associate with. And that's kind of a reflection I want to talk about with you guys a little bit is, yeah, I mean, like, what do you guys think, like, when it comes to personal branding and it comes to our own identity, like, you know,
like who we are to other people kind of thing.
Who we are to ourselves. Like, I think that holds a lot of guys back because they want to grow and become better, but they're like, I have these things about me that I associate with that are part of who I am to the core. And I think it's easy to be like, I can never do that because I like this. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I think both me and Peter could probably give examples from our own lives on this too. I've talked about it before on the show of like how much I used to play video games. Obviously, there's some people who've definitely played more video games than me. When I say like, oh, you know, I got really into. I remember like I got really into RuneScape starting in like 2006. I was like 7 years old and got into this because I have 3 older brothers who are all into it. And like it was 2006 to like 2008, like RuneScape was like the computer game to play. Like I remember going to a library back when like people actually used the computers at the library instead of having, you know, more powerful computers in their pockets. And like back when like all of the computers at the library were getting used, and like I swear half the people were playing RuneScape. And like we got like super into this, and I don't even know because they had like RuneScape and they got updated, and then people didn't like it as much, and then they like rebooted it. So I had the old account, which I have no idea how much time I actually put into that, but I put a good amount of time into it. On the new account that like launched in like I think 2013. I think I started playing around 2014 or something like that. I think the last time I looked on there, I had over 60 days of in-game time.
Damn.
So that'd be if I was playing for like 60 days straight. Wow. And also I got like really into, you know, like League of Legends as well in like 2013, 14, whatever. Played for a while. Probably have over 1,500 hours in that game. Some people who play League of Legends might listen to that and be like, he hasn't even like completed the tutorial yet. But because some people put stupid amounts of time into that game. And like, I remember like after high school, I didn't like go to college, but like even in high school, I played like a mass amount of video games. Like I spent a lot of my time thinking about video games, and it like affected like the people that I talked to. Sometimes like where I sat at lunch, like even my junior year of high school, which was definitely the hardest year of high school academically. Like I failed literature class, like because of video games, essentially. Like I don't really understand some of the assignments, and I was really far behind, and I'm like, I don't really get this. Instead of actually like pushing into it, I just kind of escaped to playing video games. And I'm like looking back on that now, it's like if I didn't like have a video game addiction, I wouldn't even have called it a video game addiction like a year ago. Like if I didn't have a video game addiction, like I wouldn't have failed literature. And like I loved playing video games are really fun. They make them fun for a reason. I'm not like like all you guys out there that play video games, I'm not like, oh, video games suck. Like I remember hearing people.
That's me. I say that.
Yeah.
I've never gotten into them.
I just remember like hearing people say like, oh, video games suck. Mostly like my parents and other people like teachers or whatever.
It's gonna rot your brain.
Yeah, or something like that. But like the same time, like I think when my parents were like, oh, video games aren't good, like, but I think the whole thing was like, Mom and Dad, you don't understand. If you knew how fun video games were, you would play them as much as I do because it's the only thing that matters.
Right.
Spoken like a true addict. Anyway.
I'm just imagining this little angsty kid, this little angsty Adam.
Yeah. Dude, I was
shaking his fist.
I was real angsty. But like
cue punk rock music. I'm just kidding.
I was trying to think of punk rock lyrics, but nothing exactly came to my mind.
What is it?
The small things.
What is it now, Adam? What do you associate like to yourself now?
Well, I think kind of what made me have this switch from like video games to looking for something else is, well, first off, I did 2 years of missionary work, which kind of just automatically pulled me away from video games because I just didn't have any time or the means to play video games.
Oh.
Except like very rarely, occasionally, I suppose. But I remember like there's sometimes where I thought like, oh man, I just really want to play video games right now. Which is like, when I look back on it, I'm like, that was definitely like, I had video game like withdrawal. It was, cause like I'd think about video games like all of the time. Like after high school, I wanted to like get good enough at video games where I could like basically make money off of just playing video games. Like whether that's being like a streamer or like getting in the professional scene, even though I wasn't even anywhere close to being good enough to like, to that. Like,
wow.
I didn't like, I was like trying, like I wanted to like become like, get like to diamond ranking in League of Legends, but like I never even made it to like gold ranking.
Right.
like I wasn't even like that good at video games. But like,
you had like dreams and goals.
Yeah. But like I had a lot of friends that I played video games with. And I really enjoyed playing video games with those friends. And I remember like talking to a couple of friends and being like, and this is, I think this was like after I had 2 years of missionary work where I didn't play as many video games. And then I also did like intense door-to-door sales where I didn't really have time to play video games again. I was like, I feel like I am almost kind of living in two worlds where it's like, I have video games where I'm like thinking about video games a lot, but also there's like other stuff I'm trying to accomplish in my life in other areas. And I feel like I'm kind of torn between them. And I think I was talking to some of my friends that I play video games with about this. And one of them's like I was like, I feel like I got like two lives. And then one of my friends was like, oh, I feel like I got only one life. So, I mean, it might be the virtual one, but, and at that point I was like, that's terrifying to me. I'm like, I don't want to be that guy. And I kind of was that guy. I was the guy that, played video games in my parents' basement, like
it's kind of crazy, Adam, because like you talk about friends that you had that were video game friends and different, like maybe some of them were higher levels at League of Legends than you. And you wanted to like become this diamond level and like grow there, even to the point where like you want to make your personal brand revolve around being a streamer. Yeah. Playing video games and being known as video games and people would watch you play video games. And to see where you are now, where you're like, I want to do sales. I want to work on building a business. And you're really into fitness and you've taken your strength and you've bulked up and you've, you know what I mean? Like you read and you're intellectual now. It's like, those are two very different Adams. Isn't it crazy how those life paths could have looked so different if you had pursued those goals?
The thing is,
that's wild.
Yeah, like, it's crazy, but there's also a lot of similarities, right? So like, I quit playing video games almost a year ago now. Essentially, I don't recall playing video games in between like now and like pretty much last April. So we're coming up around about a year without playing any video games, which is wild to me. I think if like my 18, 19, 20. Even 21-year-old self, like knew like, 25-year-old Adams had played video games for a year. I'd be like, what? Huh? Yeah. No, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think I'm going to play video games until I'm 87 when I die. But I think a huge change for me was but then also last July, that's when I really started taking it seriously in the gym. And I think a huge part of that was like realizing that, like the kind of identity that I had in video games and whatnot, like leaving that, like I started kind of doing at-home workouts while I was doing missionary work and doing some workouts while I was doing door-to-door sales. So it's kind of like fitness started becoming a little thing in my life, but it wasn't like a really big thing. And then I guess it's just like I went through some like hard things in my life, kind of like last spring, last summer. And I was just like, okay, I need something that's like constructive, that like I almost look for something that to like escape with, that was like a little like constructive, because I'm like, I don't want to go back to playing video games because I don't want to have just a virtual life. I want to live in real life. So I was like, well, I'm already working out. So what if I went to like an actual gym, and then I'm like, because at the time I was like living with my parents. I'm like, I just want to be able to get out of the house. So I just started going to the gym, and that was kind of like, it was almost like I replaced video games with going to the gym. And that was kind of what it kind of started as. Cause I'm like, okay, this is more constructive, but also like at that point I wasn't big. I wasn't like jacked. Like I was still really skinny. Like I was like benching like 90 pounds. Like that's not impressive. Like, but like I just had to have the attitude of like, I don't give a fuck. And I'm just going in there and getting it done. But at the same time, kind of over time, I realized a lot of the stuff that I looked for in video games, I kind of found at the gym and also in relating to people. Cause I realized a lot of the things that I liked about video games was like what people thought about me. Like, oh, I'm playing with these friends, and can I make this video game more fun for them when I'm playing it? Like, am I that guy kind of thing? But also like the video games themselves, like, oh, hey, I am trying to accomplish this thing. So then, oh, I leveled up here. I beat this, this quest in RuneScape, this like leveling up, becoming better at the game. But now like when you apply that to like working out, like getting the pump is like, oh, I have like that power trip of like, oh, I just like did something really cool in the video game. But like when you're working out, it's just like, oh, I got the pump going. I feel like huge and got all the endorphins going. And then over time you get bigger and you're like, oh, I'm like leveling up, but it's me. It's not just like digital. Like I take this everywhere I go.
Right.
And it's like, oh, this is like way better. Also, I'm more healthy because of that too.
Yeah.
So it's like,
so it sounds like almost
yeah.
You're realizing that
Yeah.
fitness kind of replaced video games as far as a way to kind of meet your needs in a healthier way.
Yeah. So it was kind of like I used fitness to kind of meet those like those needs of like significance and whatnot that I was filling with video games in my life. I kind of replaced, like I was filling that need with like working out. And like it's like, okay, can a person like focus too much on working out? Yeah, I suppose.
So what would, sorry to change pace here.
Yeah.
What would your advice be to guys that like, so it's like, how hard was it to give up video games in your life?
Dude,
like I'm hearing there's this persona of Adam.
I think,
and this value that you had, you know what I mean? Like there's so much you put into video games.
Mm-hmm.
You give this example of the library and RuneScape. And I want to hear more about like what that was like, making that shift away from that, because that was such a part of your identity.
Yeah. Dude, like there's examples of like addicts, like you can use the example of like Vietnam or whatnot, where all of them were like addicted to heroin while they were there, and then they came back home and they didn't have any like temptation to like go back to heroin or anything. It's like a change in environment. I was lucky enough to just like have a very hardcore change in environment, going and doing intense ministry, like driving around the country, putting on retreats for youth.
Right.
Like that. Yes, I still liked playing video games at that time, and I did find a couple of times to play video games, and I would talk about video games like with like the youth on retreats and with other people I worked with, because that's like kind of the thing that I had. But eventually I realized, oh, hey, this isn't, I don't necessarily get super far with this. So like, oh, the people around me aren't really impressed with, whatever my level in RuneScape is or how much I've played League of Legends. Like no one really cares. So it's almost like I stopped like that. The video games stopped filling that need anyway because of my change of environment. And granted, I did like once I was done with ministry or in between ministry, I guess because of COVID, and all that bullshit. Like I kind of went back to playing video games when I like came back home. It was just kind of like to medicate, like shit, like what the hell's happening in the world right now, and to like kind of fill those needs. But I think it just something just kind of weighed at me where I'm like, I know there's more than this. It's like I want to be successful and like I wanted to do stuff in real life that mattered, but I thought like, oh, I could do that somehow through video games or whatnot. Or I just thought that like I couldn't like necessarily like leave video games because I, sunk cost fallacy. I thought I like put so much time into video games. So it's like, well, this is the thing that I do, so I might as well keep doing it. But I think it was just like gradually over time gaining significance from other things besides video games, while video games were still kind of in the background. Right. To the point where, I did door-to-door sales. I'm like, and I like learned like, I have a lot of grit to me. I can do very hard things. And that kind of started kind of latching onto my identity into where I found significance and maybe
there's other things I can do that can make me feel like I'm doing good in life.
Yeah. And so there's like these things where it's like, and when you and me, John, had kind of our mindset shift with Danny, when we went and got graphics cards, like all these different experiences that over time kind of shifted where I was finding my significance from, to a point where like, I think when I had that conversation of like, how many, like living a virtual reality, versus like actual reality, it got to the point where I kind of got scared by that. And I was like, I don't like video games almost like made me feel kind of like icky at that point, you know? And it just got to the point where I realized like more and more like, okay, now I'm just playing the video games. Even I don't even necessarily like them as much. It's just like I'm playing them for like the people I was playing them with. But then I also had other people in my life. So it just like video games diminished and everything else kind of increased. So like I initially had a really strong like switch to take me out of an environment. But then when I got put back into the same environment, I had things that kind of like were able to fill that need more properly. And at a certain point, I was able to just like quit. And maybe that's just how you quit addictions. I don't know. I haven't been addicted to that many things in my life, I don't think. So, but yeah, that's a really long-winded way of like, I guess, going into how I found significance in working out and, going after life and trying to, provide value to people rather than just play video games. So,
come on.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. I've had a lot of different things be the thing that I kind of, we'll say, found value in, or status, if you will. Whether it was motorcycles. I come from a background of, I'm a mechanic. And so there's kind of a lot of things that mechanics do. Most of the guys I work with have a motorcycle, have a truck, have a boat, have a cabin. Those are all of like the things that mechanics kind of have in their life. ATVs, dirt bikes, all of that kind of shit.
They like the vehicles.
Right. We like toys.
Big ones.
Right.
Mechanical gasoline.
Yeah, exactly. If it makes like revving sounds and explosions coming out of a tailpipe, it's pretty fucking awesome. Which as much as I'm a mechanic and I love those things, they don't have to go hand in hand. It's just that it's super simple because to make that jump, that they would go together. So for me, it's like, okay, I really want to fit in here. I want to belong here. So what do? Okay, I have to have a loud truck. I don't, but I did. I felt like I had to. And then it became kind of a part of me to the point that I was having some issues with my truck, and I like legit was depressed. I had to get, I borrowed my brother's car for a little while, and people noticed. They were like, dude, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, what do you mean? And they're like, you just don't seem right. Like, there's something different about you. And I was kind of like, what? And then all of a sudden they were like, dude, you haven't had your Suburban for 2 weeks, and it's making you like depressed and I like had to do a lot of self-reflection on that, because I was like, shit, You're right. I have so much of my identity tied up in that vehicle. And so I had to do a lot of self-reflection on that. And, now I have my Cobalt and I love it.
It's loud.
Yeah, it's louder than a Cobalt should be. But to me, it's more of a fun thing. Like I like, when you leave it in low gear and you rev up and you let off and it makes crackles and bangs. I love that shit.
Yeah.
Does it annoy my neighbors? Does it piss off the people around me? Absolutely. I think it's hilarious, and so that's why I do it. When people talk about vehicles and the way you drive and things of that nature, I always say it's miles per gallon, not miles per gallon. That's my motto.
That's awesome.
So like when I have, the super nice sports cars, dude, I will have them as loud as they can be with as much horsepower as they can have.
Hell yeah.
Not because I at this point, I actually don't really care what other people think about it. It brings a smile to my face. And I know that some people love that type of thing. And if it brings a smile to their face, that's going to continue to make me happy. I'll continue to feel joy from that. Which you could say that there's some status to that, but the status is I'm trying to bring joy to that segment of people.
So you should say there'd be it's like the same type of thing that gives you status, but you're shifting your focus with it.
Yeah, I'm trying to shift a lot of my focus away from me. Obviously I do things for me. I go to the gym, I eat healthy, I'm rolling the same diet. If you want to call it diet, I'm going to call it lifestyle, as John. Been on that for about 2 months now, and phenomenal. When you talk about mental clarity and physical strength and ability and just like healing and like all of the things that go into that, absolutely. I feel better than I have in a long time. And I'm the guy who, has had the ups and downs, the yo-yoing with my weight my entire life.
Right.
And now it's like I finally see like the light at the end of the tunnel, where it's like, oh, hey, I actually recognize that what I'm doing right now is leading me towards that final destination, that Pete 2.0. The creation that God made me to be. I'm gonna use the word that dangerous version of me, as cliche as it might sound on this podcast.
That's what we're about,
right? So. Absolutely. But when people see me, I look at like what I want future me to be. I want to walk into a room, and I want people to feel loved. I want people to feel respected. I want them to feel affirmed. I want them to feel that there is a positive energy in the room. And when they look at me, I want them to say, that looks like a really, really genuine, like hardcore dude that I definitely don't want to fuck with. And that is my goal.
Come on.
So when people see me, they go, oh, fuck, and that's my goal, in all of it. And again, status, there's a status there. But ultimately the reason that I say I want people to feel loved, affirmed, respected, is because that will lead them to who has given me this position, which is not me. I'm doing my mission, my purpose, because it's been given to me by God. So
Yeah, I think that's very much what we're about here for, on The Dangerous Man is we want to become dangerous and we want to like have people realize, oh, wait, that guy's going after his purpose. That guy's going after his mission. He's really fulfilling stuff in his life and I can see it and I can see the results, whether he's like jacked, has a lot of stuff going for him, his personality, his interpersonal communication skills, and being like, I want that.
Yeah.
I want that. And I want to fulfill my purpose.
Yep.
There's such a big distinction between like, obviously we talk about this in course of status, but ultimately we need to have significance in our life. There are a lot of bad decisions we make to gain status as a motive that isn't helpful. And I want to make that distinction that there are legitimate things. It's like, okay, I'm not suggesting that everything that you do, you need to completely get rid of as a man but I would say you need to ask yourself this question. Does it serve you? And is it really, leading you towards the end goal of your purpose? I think what's cool about you, Pete, is like there are aspects of like, the revving the engine, wanting to get the respect and admiration of other dudes. There's also an aspect of like, you kind of able to reflect on that and go, wait a minute, like that's not everything. But like, it does feel good when that happens. And that's not necessarily a bad thing to experience that in life. But to be like, you know what? I want to rev my engine and I want to drive fast cars and loud cars. And I get a lot of joy and that's fun. It's like, that's like great to have as a part of your personality. Right.
Yeah.
And every guy's going to have those things. But I think there's always going to be a question of, does this serve me? And does it allow me to move into a place where I can create a better future for my family? And sometimes it's like, is this a healthy way of experiencing significance in my life? So there's some just great reflections to have here,
Yeah.
But yeah.
I always said I would never be the guy that would allow a minivan into my fleet. However, I think that I've changed that because I see the versatility and the use of a minivan, especially with like a young family. So now it's become on the day that I buy a minivan, I'm going to be shipping it to a shop and I'm going to be having a V8 put in it and it'll be straight pipe.
You're going to be souping the shit out of it.
Because
functionality,
fuck it. Like,
and dope
if it's gonna be a,
you can have like the rims and everything.
Bro, if it's gonna be a minivan, my future wife's gonna want to have a minivan. I guarantee it.
You're like, fine, we can make that work.
We'll make that work. Okay, there
But
will
it's
be a
gonna be
compromise,
loud.
but it's gonna be loud and stupid fast.
And when I drive it,
for shits and giggles, and I'm gonna have all the settings turned off. I'm gonna make it so that you can, it'll drive like a stock, just way faster than stock. But when I get into it and I click the button, the active exhaust is gonna pop open, valves open, and
once you switch it to man
is
mode,
gonna haul ass. It's gonna shoot fireballs out and shit. Like, I don't give a fuck, dude. It's gonna be the coolest minivan because the status that we're claiming there is that your minivan is shit. Like, all of your kids, everyone else's parents can be like, fuck this dude because his minivan is way cooler. That's what I'm
his
going for.
minivan is cooler than my like, I don't know, Dodge Charger or something like that. Like he's like, I thought my car was cool, but he has a minivan. He makes my car look like
he's
shit.
a minivan that shoots fireballs. What the fuck?
just go around flexing on everybody.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But then when your wife drives it, she could,
I'll turn all that shit right back off.
She'll drive it.
Fuck no,
people
she's
look
not
at
driving like that. Unless I train her.
Unless she wants to drive like that.
I will train her first.
We're gonna run some driving courses.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There will be courses.
Yeah, that'd be super wild. Yeah, dude, like I feel like having like knowing what has like where you're putting your energy for your status and for your identity is like so important as a man to know because it has so much to do in line with our purpose and where we're like trying to go in life. That I think like it'd be really important for us as men to keep reflecting on where am I putting my poker chips of status? Where am I putting my like identity in with certain things that give me status? And are those things healthy things? How healthy are they? And could I be making like better things? And I think we've all kind of told stories about how if there is something that's great in our life that we have our identity in, but isn't actually really like serving us, isn't helping us, there's a way to move on. There's a way to find something more healthy, find something better. And it doesn't have to be the most perfect thing ever. You don't have to, like, there's no like perfectionism that needs to happen. That like, okay,
Right.
you can move from video games to fitness. You can move from just looking at, your loud vehicle differently and how you want to impact people. You can move from Mountain Dew to Chipotle to carnivore and healthier things as well. But I think it's just really important for us as men to really look at where we're putting our identity and our status.
Yeah.
That's that.
That's that, man. It's okay. It's okay to let go. It's okay to let go of something.
Yeah.
Like I think our examples have all shown that we have found other things that actually I feel more John than I ever have. And at the moment it was hard being like, shoot, do I let this go? Is my life going to crumble? But you could ask any of these guys here, like John is still John. If anything, he's more John. And I'm more free to help others. I'm more passionate to go pursue my purpose. And I'm getting my needs met in a much more healthy, significant, in life fulfilling way. I've never been more alive than I am today. And so if you have any fear with that, letting go of things that hold you back, you're only going to find the life you want on the other side. So my advice would just be to don't worry. Like I'm John today. I was John yesterday. I'll be John tomorrow.
But the most important thing is that you're becoming more dangerous.
Share the show if you want to help other men embrace danger and become truly great. You've been listening to The Dangerous Man. Join us next time. Until then,
Claim your greatness
and stay dangerous.